Hi guys, hope you are doing well. Today I'd like to share a script story I've been working on for a while. I do not work in Hollywood, nor am I a professional writer for them, but I love to write and work with movies in my free time as a hobby. The story is just my version of Superman. The script is not completed, but the story is set. Um, this I'd like to share with you, and hope you guys like it. Here we go. We start with the scene 1, opening with the movie. We see a pair of closed eyes and slowly pan out of them, revealing the face of Clark Kent with stubble. It is very quiet, only a slight wind can be heard. Camera continues to pan out, revealing white clouds behind him, and he is floating in the sky. Suddenly a rumbling is heard, which becomes louder very quickly, and a jet plane emerges from beneath the clouds, hitting Clark Kent with its nose. Clark Kent slides to the left of the plane and is sucked into the engine. Then the engine explodes. Clark Kent is now awake and is now floating in the sky as the plane dives down. He flies under the plane and balances it and forces the plane to land on a highway. As the plane lands, he flies off in a super speed, high up in the sky, and watches everyone get out of the plane safely. We cut to scene 2, where Clark is somewhere in Greenland in a local bar. A breaking news is announced saying that a plane miraculously just landed in a freeway in New Zealand, and nobody was injured. He leaves the bar after a small chat with the bartender in the local language. We cut to scene 3, where Clark is seen flying very low, just few centimeters above the sea, searching for something under the water. An alien-looking key is in his hand, as it is showing him the way. After a few moments, the key makes a very the very low frequency sound only Clark can hear, and he dives under the sea. Deep under the ocean, he sees a very large spaceship disguised as a deep underwater reef, which Clark can see the ship with his X-ray vision. He finds the keyhole that fits the key he is holding and insert it to the door, which the door opens. Clark enters the ship, and due to the kryptonian atmosphere inside the ship, he faints. Screen fades to black. We go to scene 4. Still black screen. We hear voices and noises. We see through Lois Lane's eyes. Lois Lane is captured by some terrorist in the Middle East. She has a black cloth over her head. Camera reveals the surrounding as the cloth is removed from Lois's head. Terrorist leader demands a USB key that they strongly believe that she is in possession of. She denies this. She is tortured for several days, and finally these terrorists start to believe her. Then a ransom is demanded from her boss, Perry White, for her life on a phone. Scene 5. Perry White calls in for a favor from a military general. We go to scene 6. The general is sitting in a top secret meeting about an alien, Clark Kent, that may be living here on Earth. The topic was raised due to the recent airplane incident and an amateur video which was captured with a mobile phone. And the military had a few amateur satellite footage and Maybe few intels on this alien. We cut to scene 7, a view inside a spaceship through a baby Kal-Al's eyes. Few X-ray visions of outside and a view inside the spaceship, flashing back and forth. Sound is heard as the ship enters the Earth atmosphere, and a very shaky view, the impact noise. Few seconds later, the ship doors opens, and a bright light is seen, and the Jonathan Kent's face is seen. Scene 8. Older Clark Kent's eyes opens, and Jor-El and Laura-El are standing by the foot of his bed that he is lying on. They both introduce themselves as their biological father and mother, and takes him around the ship and into an observatory to give him a background, an introduction to who Kal-El is, where he's from, and where his parents are from, as well as the background to the krypton. We have a new introduction to the El family. The El family are of royal blood. Although the idea of the royalty vanished from Krypton hundreds of generations ago, the House of El holds a very significant and respected status in the society for thousands of years in Krypton. There were very few other houses which hold such a significant and highly respectful status. The El family has always been noble and keeper of the peace. The symbol S on his suit stands for Siv-El, which is spelled SIV-AL, the very first member of the El clan, who also was a Dave, a king, a ruler of Kalash, Kalash. He was a very important person and figure in Kryptonian history. Like many religious symbols on Earth, Krypton also had various symbols, like the symbol S, but none of the symbol bared any religious meaning or ideology. Jor-El strongly forbids Kal-El to interfere in people's culture and belief. Jor-El asks Kal-El to bear the S symbol as a respect to his ancestor and his heritage, as he is the last of his El family, and to remind him of a belief of unity, peace and harmony in any creation, because at the end, lack of this belief destroyed Krypton. Jor-El continues, Krypton was destroyed about 30 years ago, but can still be seen in the Leo constellation. Because it is 250 light years away from Earth, he still can look up in the sky and see his home. Kryptonian visited Earth many times throughout the Earth's history. People of Earth are unaware of this. They left this kind of ships on Earth and few other planets on the solar system, such as Mars, one of their outposts under the Mount Olympus, hidden for study and research purposes. Jor-El and his team researched Earth and this solar system. They were studying manipulation of the energy. Like plants use photosynthesis to create food and energy, they studied sun and its radiation to their advantage to manipulate Kryptonian molecular structure. They could travel inside our solar system in open space without spacesuit, breathe underwater and stay there as long as you wanted. This could only be achieved in certain solar system around the galaxy. Kryptonian did this kind of research and many experiments across galaxies throughout time in search of immortality. And they succeeded this long time ago by altering and manipulating the atmosphere and the Kryptonian molecular structure. And although in this process they had altered the Kryptonian atmosphere completely. After achieving immortality, they quest for other godlike powers, which Kal-El has been discovering over these years. Kal-El asks, if they were immortals, then how could everyone be dead? In this, Jor-El replies, nature. Like entropy demands chaos, After a certain period of stability in Krypton, there was a great number of population growth, and slowly the hunger for power started to take over certain fanatics. These fanatics began research on reversing immortality, which later led to a never-ending war. Since Kryptonians were immortals and these fanatics could never be killed, a phantom zone was created where these war criminals were imprisoned. Eventually they did succeed in reversing the immortality, but in a great cost. The Krypton planet itself and its atmosphere was polluted and altered from the core, so much that everyone in Krypton started to be weak and could be killed and could die. It happened so fast that nobody in Krypton realized what actually was happening, apart from very few scientists, and nobody would listen, and it was too late, before the planet itself gave up. But Jor-El and Laura-El managed to save Kal-El at the very last hour, so therefore he is the last son of Krypton. Jor-El also explains that they came and updated the software, hardware of this ship regularly, with a century's interval, without the human detection. Jor-El came and upgraded these ships as the evacuation pod a few years before Kal-El was born. But because everything happened so fast that they were unable to join Kal-El. The key that Kal-El carried had the latest update before the Krypton's explosion. The memory banks of the ship holds the information and history of Krypton. The ship's function and its memory bank can only be accessed by the DNA code of Jor-El and his descendants. There are limitations on response of Jor-El since he is already dead. The iconic Superman suit belonged to Sivel, the first El, and now it belongs to the last son of Krypton. The suit is like a ceremonial dress, with neck collars and armors and long coat and cloak. Although all these can be taken off and wear it like a iconic Superman costume. Jor-El chose Earth for his son, especially because he was very fond of the solar system and the people of Earth, and he felt Kal-El would be safe here and would feel right at home. We cut to scene 9. Perry White meets with a man in a public place somewhere in Turkey with a ransom money for Lois Lane. He demands a proof that Lois Lane is alive. They meet again the next day somewhere remote for the exchange, and Lois Lane is returned safely. Military had put a tracker in the suitcase and were planning to infiltrate their location. Lois demands that she wants to go back to see the end of it. Military infiltrates the location and kills them all. Lois returned to the cell she was held captive. Then she digs up a USB key that was kept safely in the plastic. She doesn't tell anyone what she went back for except for Perry. She discloses that she is in a possession of something very big that will make history. The terrorists were just the dumb pawns. She tells him she should be dead. But these guys probably thought that they could make some extra money, hence the ransom. Later, Lois and Perry travels back to US. On the plane, she makes a friend with a photographer named Jimmy Olsen, whom she convinced to hit the USB key for her and arrange a place to meet in the US. Did Lois know she was followed by multiple individuals since the airport? Immediately after the plane lands, Perry White, Lois Lane, and Jimmy Olsen are taken to individual interrogation room and held there for several hours and searched. Later, when they came outside, Jimmy tells Lois that he is no longer in possession of the USB key. but he managed to sneak it to the stewardess he knew back on the plane. We cut back to scene 10. Back in Kryptonian ship, Jor-El and Laura-El continues. There are few other ships located around the world hidden from human detection. The computers on these ships are far more advanced than the technology of humans. It contains the history and records of Krypton as well as Earth. It is so sophisticated that it can penetrate any human technology without anyone detecting it. It can access any or all data from anywhere in the globe and alter or delete anything needed without a trace. It can decrypt any human algorithm within no time. We cut to scene 11. Clark Kent returns home to his farm. As Martha Kent is rearranging the house, there are lots of boxes outside the house. As Martha sees Clark, she says, "I was wondering when you were going to turn up. It has been quite a while since the military personnel came home to me with the letter and your dog tag. I was beginning to think if you really were dead. But then again, I knew you were not. Did you find what you were looking for?" Clark replies, "Yes, I think so." There are a few flashbacks of Clark Kent's earlier life that runs parallel to the storyline. We go back to one of the flashbacks. We see and hear Jonathan Kent telling Clark Kent to control his power and not to display it in public. Clark and Jonathan discuss Clark's path in life, his purpose, and his powers, where Jonathan tells Clark that honestly he doesn't know, that Clark has to find his own path and purpose in life. All Jonathan can say is what we humans are like, that we fear the unknown, that we will destroy or try to destroy that we fear or what we do not understand, that we have great hunger for power. Human will try to wield the power or use the power to their advantage. He can only give Clark an advice that never to let anyone control him or use him as a weapon. He tells him it is best for him to stay out of politics and ideology of any man. Scene 12. Story introduces Lex Luthor in his private jet. He looks fit and a handsome businessman. Very classy outfit and well-trained body with stylish hair. He is accompanied with a high-ranking military officer. Here they are discussing the potential leaked information about Lex Corps. The high-ranking government officials, the Lex clearly threatened. Scene 13. We go back to Lois Lane's story, where Lois Lane meets with Jimmy Olsen and his IT friend. In an apartment, they try to access the USB key that they have successfully retrieved. A few minutes later, a bang is heard in the apartment door, and a few agents enter and arrest them all. And they take the USB and the computers with them. After a day of interrogation and holding, they are released. But the USB key and the laptops are taken away from them. Before releasing Lois Lane, one of the agents tells her to leave the story because she is poking into a hornet nest. But later, Jimmy tells Lois that he has successfully made a copy of the USB and is backed up into one of his private cloud. When they try to look at the data, they discover that the backup had crashed and they only have part of the data. The data contained some big official names, some incidents, few companies, and in the center of them all, Lex Corp, to which Lois gladly says it is enough to poke the hornet out of their nest, and the rest will follow. Scene 14. We go back to Clark Kent's flashbacks. One of the flashbacks contains that Clark is serving in the army as a sniper, In the army, he has a nickname One-Shot Guru, as he guns down each target with one shot, but only wounding them. And Guru because of his no-kill morality, which often conflicts with his fellow soldiers. As he is patrolling a peaceful village, they are suddenly attacked by bombs and gunfire, killing his soldiers' friend as well as the villagers, women, children, and families. This suddenly gets into Clark's emotionally. He does not know how to handle all this, and above all this, his father, Jonathan Kent's death. He suddenly just snaps. He single-handedly kills all the attackers, punching hole in their chest, throwing them in the wall and up in the sky. At the end, his body is covered in blood from top to toe. With red eyes, he flies off in a rage, flies around the world and into a jungle. He yells and burns the forest with his heat vision, flies off again and then dives in deep into the Indian Ocean while boiling the water with his heat vision. Suddenly we hear a bang and fade to black. Scene 15. Still in a flashback, Clark wakes up in the river bank, almost half naked, looking like a homeless guy. He then sees some bald Buddhist monk walking in a group, chanting. He stands up and follows the Buddhist monk. As he is walking, his hair starts to fall off, and he too becomes bald. We see Clark now working with the monk and learning their ways and their teaching, caring for the plants and animal, begging as a monk house to house. We see him traveling to different kind of spiritual places in India, talking to gurus about such questions as how do you tell right from wrong, and if he had the power to rule the world, would he do so? Gurus tell him that there is no such a thing as right and wrong. Right and wrong is just a reflection of a society and morals we are brought up with. Every individual has their own version of right and wrong. Therefore, he should find his own. As in the matter of ruling the world, he tells there are two ways you can rule the world. One with imposing force and fear, and the other by winning people's heart, doing good deeds. History has full of examples for both, those who seek power and those who do good. Clark continues searching his soul across the world. Now I do have some small gaps in the story, which I'm working on to filling them, but I do have the key plots filled out. So I'll discuss the key plots. Key Scene 1. Superman is revealed to the world in this way. An asteroid is heading towards Earth, which will eliminate life on Earth completely. This information is kept from the public due to a mass panic and chaos that will break out around the world. Lex Luthor has already this information and had been preparing for this Armageddon for years, building very deep underground bunker which is massive in scale, storing high-tech gears and supplies for a lifetime. Kryptonian ship alerts Superman about the asteroid. This asteroid changed its course about 30 years ago due to baby Kal-El's arrival. When his ship hit the asteroid, it changed its path. Jor-El tells Superman that he will have to fly out in space to change the asteroid's path by manipulating the gravity around it. He will have to fly around the Earth to pick up speed and use Earth's gravity to slingshot and pick up leverage. The computer calculates the speed that he needs and the gravity force that is needed to change the asteroid course. Superman's amateur picture goes suddenly viral in the internet after he saves the Earth from asteroid impact. Every news around the world asks, who is this Superman? Perry White asks Lois Lane to drop the Hornet story and cover the Superman story. Key Scene 2. Lex Luthor suddenly remembers an incident from his childhood in Smallville, and very fast realizes that there is a mystery in Kent Farm. So he visits the Kent Farm with a military officer and forces Martha off the farm. As he searches the farm, Superman, he is in Kryptonian ship. Lex finds the ship baby Kal-El arrived in. He enters the ship and says, "Take me back to where I came from." Suddenly he is thrown back, and a few hours later he is in space with flying debris of an exploded krypton. He sees green rocks floating, and he collects these rocks. He asks the computer, "Where am I?" The computer replies, "Krypton." A few hours later, the ship returns back to Earth, where Superman is waiting, and he forces the ship down to ground. Lex Luthor gets out of the ship. Lex and Superman has a fight. To Superman's surprise, Lex has an upper hand and Superman is very weak. Finally, Lex stabs Superman, where Lex remarks, "Interesting," and leaves Superman there bleeding. He gets in the ship and flies away. Key Plot 3. Lois Lane comes to a Kent Farm knocking on the door while Clark and Martha were discussing the incident of Lex Luthor's visit earlier that day. Lois Lane had also made a connection to Kent Farm and wanted an interview with Clark. When Clark asks Lois how she knew, she replies, "Oh, it was a bit difficult, but I'm very good with connecting dots. But it is only a matter of time where the world media news will start to camp right outside your farm." Martha invites her inside while Clark flies off to Kryptonian ships. He asks a ship's computer to erase or alter all connection and link that exists between Kal-El, Superman, and the Kent family around the world. After a few minutes, Clark comes back to Kent Farm, where Lois is having a tea with Martha. Clark recognizes Lois from the kidnap incident and the many Hornets news, and he tells her that he is very impressed by her courage and writing. Clark agrees to give her an interview, but only the story of Superman, and he will not give her the detailed information, only what the world needs to know. But before that, he needs her help for the final act of the story. Key Plot 4. Clark flies back to Kryptonian ship to locate where the ship that Lex Luthor stole from him. Jor-El advised Clark to wear his full ceremonial Superman costume, which is bulletproof, as he would be weakened by the kryptonite that Lex Luthor brought back. Jor-El also advised him to take a weapon from a weapons chamber, a weapon which will only knock human out for a day. Clark contacts Lois to meet him at the location where Lex is. Clark asks Lois to get any data that Lex might have on him and destroy them as Clark tries to get back his ship. He gives Lois a light fabric bulletproof armor and a knockout weapon to use if necessary. If Clark fails, she must contact the authorities and cover up his tracks. Clark manages to infiltrate Lex's underground lab, but is unable to overpower Lex due to large amount of kryptonite laying there. Lois Lane comes to Clark's aid, and only then Lex is knocked out. Clark takes the ship and hides it. Key Plot 5. Lex's doctor tells him that he has cancer and advises him not to go around wearing those green kryptonite jewelries. He tells the doctor that it keeps him safe from Superman. Then the doctor replies, "Well, Superman is least of your worries if you keep wearing that." Doctor tells him that the kryptonite is radioactive, and any radioactive is not good for anyone. And in the final scene, we see Lex from behind, completely bald due to his chemotherapy. A footnote: Lex does fight his cancer away for the future records. Key plot 6. At the end, we also see Clark Kent join the Daily Planet with his iconic glasses. Although in my altered story, I have added that his eyes color change, has a long hair and beard stubble. Explanation for this is, as mentioned earlier, Kryptonian can change their appearance, like change the color of their eyes, grow or shorten their hair in their body, and a few other things as they will, as a result of their quest for immortality and massive changes and alteration of their body in molecular level. And I also have an end credit scene. For the end credit, we travel out of our solar system in the Oort cloud, where a large Kryptonian ship is stationary. This is the ship of Zod, who had followed the earlier Kryptonian ship when Lex visited the ruins of Krypton. Zod had been monitoring the incidents in Earth and orders his men to fly to Kryptonian outpost in Mars. The end. So, I hope you guys like my version of the story. Let me know in the comment below. Till next time, have a great day to you all. Thank you.